And now it's time for RoadWorthy Drive with Ken Chester.
Hey everybody, Ken Chester in studio here at RoadWorthy Drive with Jack and our ever-present, ever-bubbly social media diva, Sasha. In breaking news this hour, we're going to introduce you to the Aria FXE, which is a mid-engined advanced sports car that's pretty cool. And did I mention it's electric? Also, we're going to talk about Toyota getting into the power generation business with renewable power and hydrogen generation station in California, being one of the first automakers to do so, and that's pretty cool. Our topics for today, we're going to talk about Apple. Apple's going to test autonomous cars in Arizona, and we're going to explore Apple because it's been on again. Yes, we're going to build a car. No, we're just going to do the technology. Yes, we are. No, we're not. We're going to bring you up to date, give you an idea of what's going on. Also, Samsung, you know them as a cell phone maker, but they have an $8 billion bet in autonomous cars, and you know what? They just invented a graphene battery. Those of you that have been following RoadWorthy Drive know we are crazy about some graphene up in here, and we're going to talk to you about that and how the two might come together to really be a game changer. And then finally, as always, because you know this is what we're about, it's time for another Tesla roundup, electric trucks and lithium batteries. And the funny thing, it's not all bad. We actually have some awesome news from the field of what Mr. Musk has been up to and some of the successes he has had around the world here in the last few weeks. So there's all that and more right here on RoadWorthy Drive Behind the Scenes. We're so glad you could tune in to be with us. I'm Ken Chester, and Jack, 11 minutes. Ready to go?
11 minutes, here we go.
Do you want to go faster? Yeah!
It's time for RoadWorthy Drive with Ken Chester, America's premier automotive news and information talk show. Ken loves talking all about cars, past, present, and future. Here he is, that automotive nerd with a historical twist, Ken Chester.
Welcome to America's premier automotive news and information talk show. That's right. This is RoadWorthy Drive, and I'm your host for the hour, Ken Chester. If this is your first time joining us, let me tell you that this is not your father's car show. RoadWorthy Drive is a consumer-oriented program that informs, explains, and even entertains you as we talk about the evolving technology and industry news that you need to know in plain English. No corporate jargon here. This is the place where you get to understand the terms that are being flung around in the news and online, and more importantly, my team and I equip you with the true and accurate information that will help you get the most from your automotive dollar, from buying, selling, or even maintaining your wheels, no matter how new or how old. From flying cars to electric tractor-trailer rigs, we got you covered. As a result, every hour of our program is jam-packed with news and information, and as usual, this hour is no exception. In a few minutes, I will introduce you to the Aria FXE, an American-made mid-engine advanced sports car, and Toyota's latest venture in a power generation. That's for breaking the news segment. During the second segment of the program, I will talk about Apple's self-driving car testing in Arizona. Are they on? Are they off? They're going to build a car or not? We'll talk about that. Coming up after that, I will talk about cell phone maker Samsung's several activities about and commitment to self-driving vehicle tech. All that and more this hour. For those of you who want to connect with me in the show, there's several ways. Call or text the RoadWorthy Drive line at 872-222-9793, and that's anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or you can email me at ken@roadworthydrive.com. Either way drops you right in the middle of the action. Putting the show together for you each and every week requires a dedicated team of people, research, production, and more. The one man responsible for the safe operation of the program when it's underway, and because the suits require it, is none other than my friend and RoadWorthy Drive executive producer, Jack DeLeon. Jack, how you doing, friend?
I'm good, sir, but I have a complaint I need to file with you.
Oh, God. The suit's been talking to you again?
No. This is far worse than the suits.
Oh, it can't be any worse than the suits.
Yes, this would be my wife.
Oh, well, I got nothing.
No, she is threatening now, as my Christmas present this year, to buy me a shirt that says, and I quote, "I am the adult in the room."
I will help pay for that T-shirt.
No, you won't.
Come on now.
Oh, no, you won't. I mean, this is the last thing that I need to have happen.
Oh,
Leanne and I will talk. It's okay.
we need that
I
here.
forbid you to ever talk to my wife
Oh, my.
again.
Okay, children. Okay, children.
Okay, Ken, what's going on this week?
Okay, I want to talk to you about a vehicle that was introduced as a concept earlier this year, and they actually produced a vehicle that they're actually going to build, and they introduced it at the LA Auto Show this year. It's called the FXE, and it's developed by a company called Aria Group, a premier leader in the full-range design, engineering, and manufacturing solutions for the transportation, aerospace, entertainment, and production industries. These guys have actually designed prototypes for Honda, Toyota, Tesla, Ford, GM, Disney, Paramount, and Northrop Grumman, and not to mention Elon Musk's favorite project, SpaceX, to name a few. They developed a car.
Say what?
For
Yes.
Disney?
Hey, I'm just reading here. Let me talk to you about the car they built. This car is 1,150 horsepower, 1,316 pounds of torque. It is a 6.8-liter V8 short block, four-wheel drive with what they call an E-front axle with torque vectoring, a 10-kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery pack, and it weighs about 1.5 tons.
Well, I'll back this truck up.
Yes.
1,150 horsepower.
Yes, sir. Did I mention mid-engine advanced sports car, and I should add the word hybrid?
No, I'm going to add this.
Ludicrous speed! Go!
Estimated 0 to 60 time, 3.1 seconds.
I'll take one in gold.
Okay, it still didn't beat
No.
Dodge's 2.3.
Excuse me, didn't beat the Tesla Model S, though, with ludicrous speed? Yes, 2.3, also Motor Trend, earlier this year.
I know.
Just saying. Now, they're going to build 400 of these, and I quote from the founder and CEO of the company. "We believe enthusiasts, not only in America, but around the world, are looking for a car that delivers this level of performance built by a small manufacturer with the proven level of quality and exclusivity that Aria can deliver." I'm sorry, I can think of several vehicles. Mercedes makes a few.
Yep.
BMW does also.
Oh, yes.
May also throw in the Dodge Demon
Yep.
that we talked about. And then, of course, there's always the Model S with...
We know that's right.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. Now, excuse me, Kent. What exactly are they asking for?
You know, they're not... I did not see anything about price here.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? If it is comparable to other cars like that, at the very least, I would expect a mid to high six-figure number.
Okay, but
And maybe even a little higher than that.
my question is, I mean, they're making it seem like they're the only ones putting something out there like this.
Mm-hmm.
And we can name 4 or 5 other,
Mm-hmm.
labels that are also putting out, and they actually do have an established track record with their product.
Let's start with the Porsche E918,
Let's do that.
which had a sticker price of nearly $1 million.
Yes.
That's no longer in production, and it was a hybrid. BMW i8, it is a low six-figure number, and that thing burns up the pavement. And Mercedes-Benz has shown prototypes of vehicles that will go that fast.
Yeah.
And we left out Lamborghini and
Yes.
Maserati. And the difference is this is American-made, but there are other American manufacturers building low-volume, oh, my God, vehicles of speed.
Didn't
Well-
I just see something the other day about one of the Ford F-150s that they basically put Carroll Shelby's label on,
Oh.
that it said on the emblem on the truck,
Right.
750 horsepower.
You're thinking about the Roush supercharged.
Yeah.
The Roush.
Roush,
Yep.
yes.
Roush.
Thank you, Roush. Yes, and we covered that at the Chicago Auto Show earlier this year. Because remember, I brought you back a brochure,
That is just
and that was
ri-
$100,000.
Yeah, but that much horsepower is just ridiculous.
Indeed, it is.
Well, I mean, and that's not for your average, just driving around. That's for people that actually collect these and then just kind of storm away, which seems like a shame for all those ponies underneath the hood.
Well, it is, but that's the way it goes. Now, Ken, the other question I want to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
Toyota is going to go into the power generating business?
Toyota will build the first megawatt-scale carbonate fuel cell power generation plant with, wait for it, a hydrogen fueling station to support its operations at the Port of Long Beach. Remember, we talked about hydrogen-powered drayage vehicles being tested in real time at the Port of Long Beach that Toyota made.
Yep.
Here is the kicker. They call it Trigen. It's the first power generation facility making hydrogen that is 100% renewable.
Okay.
They're going to use bio-waste sourced from California agricultural waste to generate water, electricity, and hydrogen. They're not going to burn any fossil fuel at all, which is interesting because the last show we talked about hydrogen is primarily made from natural gas.
Right.
Not this one. And if I throw this in, I've talked about before how some of the automakers have these very long-range plans.
Yep.
When I said Toyota had 50 and 100-year plans,
Yep.
May I quote, Trigen is a major step forward for sustainable mobility and a key accomplishment of our 2050 environmental challenge to achieve a net zero CO2 emissions from our operations. People,
Wow.
that's over 32 years from now.
Wow.
They're not playing. Okay? They're going to do this. And it looks like, and it kind of went sideways, and I'm really not sure. At first, when they talked about their hydrogen engine, they were talking about making that available to other truck makers. In this piece, it says, and I quote, Toyota's heavy-duty hydrogen fuel cell Class 8 truck, known as Project Portal. And that's what they're talking about, fueling. So I don't know if they're actually going to go into the heavy-duty truck business via hydrogen or not. But as they say around here, watch this space. So we'll find out for sure. But that's a thing that's happening. And again, like we said, it's going to be different. Mobility has all these differences. And this is just one more. Technology moves forward. Next, when I come back, Apple tests autonomous cars in Arizona. And then coming up, Samsung steps up its self-driving vehicle activities. Don't touch that dial. You are tuned to RoadWorthy Drive.
You're listening to RoadWorthy Drive with Ken Chester on the RoadWorthy Drive Radio Network.
Yeah, that's a thing.
That is crazy to me. And I mean, it's companies like that where they put that kind of forethought into, 20 years down the road, 50 years down the road, 100 years down the road. And then they actually implement these plans. I would love to be in on one of those brainstorming meetings where they're talking about technology that is not only maybe even theorized right now, and then expanding as to if it actually becomes a thing in principle. Can you imagine the minds that are in that kind of meeting?
Think about this right now. You have a whole industry doing just that. The whole self-driving industry, the Internet of Things, mobility, everybody's looking 20, 30 years out. They're not just looking in the next 5 years. This is a major investment on a go-forward basis. If you're jumping into this business, you're jumping in for a minimum 15 years. Otherwise, it does not make any sense to you because there's going to be winners and losers. And right now, we don't know who they're going to be. There's a number of companies that have open source platforms, some that have closed source platforms, some that are doing it on their own, and some are doing it in collaborations. It's the Wild Wild West right now. It really is. So, are you ready, sir?
I'm ready.
9 minutes. Let us do it.
Here we go.
Chevrolet Impala for 72. For the past 12 years, Impala has been the way more people have seen the USA. Because with Impala, you don't leave the comforts of home, home. It's a totally more pleasurable way to travel. For 72, Chevrolet has improved the power ventilation system and the shock absorbers. And Impala has a new front bumper system for added front-end protection. Chevrolet wants your new Impala to be the best car you ever owned.
America, there's so much to see, and Chevrolet's building a better way to see the USA.
Chevrolet, building a better way to see the USA.
The more things change, the more they stay the same. Welcome to the second segment of this hour. This is RoadWorthy Drive. I'm Ken Chester. The folks at Apple have been this on-again, off-again relationship with the development of a self-driving car. For a while, it seemed that the company was going full in on an Apple car, while at other times it seems that they were going to be content with just developing the brains for such an effort, leaving the hardware development to others. Well, let's see what you think about this piece of news that I found out. Now, you may remember, we've reported here a number of months ago that Apple had actually applied with the state of California to test cars autonomously, which is what you have to do if you want to be on the highways and byways of the state of California. But Apple now is preparing, and I quote, and this is for Sasha, she'll appreciate this, to test autonomous vehicles at an old Fiat Chrysler testing ground in the Arizona desert near Phoenix. That testing ground was supposed to actually go away because when it was Daimler Chrysler back about 12 years ago, they sold it for $312 million to a developer who was supposed to build some 16,500 homes on the site. Never happened.
Ever?
Ever.
Wow.
So he must not have even demolished it. I mean, it must still be the same as it was 12 years ago.
No, but here's the thing. They're going to have to sink some money in that puppy. If it's been vacant for 12 years and unused, you're going to have to spend some money to pick it up. Also, here's an interesting aside. I know a fellow auto journalist, retired now, who owned a piece of property next to that. He used to tell stories that he used to get spy photography, but putting a blind up on his property overlooking the Chrysler testing grounds. Was nothing they could do.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was Jim Dunn of Popular Mechanics, a gentleman's gentleman and a very dear friend of mine.
Yes.
Very dear friend of mine. Amazing guy. He had a million stories. He liked to tell this one.
Is he still alive?
As far as I know. As far as I know. An amazing man.
Make a note, Sasha. We need to get him as a guest.
Yes.
An amazing.
On top of that.
Amazing fellow. Wrote some books, by the way.
Yes, he did. I've actually got one or two.
Two. A little hard to get hold of, but we'll see what we can do. I know somebody who should be able to get us hooked up with him. Good. If he's still in the mood to talk to people. But anyway, getting back to Apple. Apple is recruiting engineers and technicians to come to work at the site. Now their newly formed autonomous electric vehicle strategy, they actually patented a scientific paper regarding LiDAR. Now, LiDAR is a form of radar that uses light pulses and measuring in order to detect things. So they're going, and it looks like at this point that they are going to lease the proving grounds, for sure. And they are recruiting automotive test engineers and technicians from other proving grounds in the state. And they've got this, and I quote, revamped approach to self-driving cars, whatever that means. Because they're still being a little coy.
They're going to get back in it again.
Yeah, but the question is, are they going to develop the brains of the thing, or are they going to actually get into the hardware?
Yeah, and see that, I think if Apple proves to be specifically Apple, I'm hoping at some point they're going to get away from their isolation technology and understand that the money is actually in the software, in the brains, in manufacturing something that, you know, will go into everything else.
Well, I may quote this. Apple scuttled plans last year to build a self-driving car of its own after a haphazard effort. Now it's focused on the underlying technology that can make an autonomous car drive itself. Here's the problem. There's hundreds of companies in that space right now.
Yep.
From Baidu in China, a host of other ones. Intel bought Mobileye. They're deep in it. You've got Google through Waymo. They're deep in it.
I mean,
GM,
Dyson?
Ford, they're deep in it. Tyson, Dyson.
Dyson,
thank you.
The vacuum cleaner people
Yes.
are in it
oh
too.
my gosh, yes.
And spending $4.5 billion
Yep.
to be in this space. Everybody, again, the example that I like to give is back in the day, you remember VHRs. And
VHS and versus Beta.
versus Beta.
Yep.
You know, you had two schools of thought, both going after the public, Beta machines, VHS machines. Neither one was compatible, but they were competing for the dollars of the American consumer.
Oh my gosh, that's like a laser disc versus the DVD. Remember those laser discs?
Vaguely. Or, you know, Lotus software versus Microsoft software back in the days of Office.
Yes.
And,
yes.
and nobody remembers one of the first spreadsheet programs called VisiCalc. Bet nobody remembers that. That was before Lotus 123,
I've
before
never heard of it.
Excel.
No.
Actually used it. I'm embarrassed to say many much moon ago. That's all I'm saying that. But again, back to Apple.
So are you saying that basically Apple, once again, is late to the party?
I don't know if they're late.
If you've got hundreds of companies already in this arena, and now Apple's going to show up after they said no, and they're playing this yes, no, yes, no, yes, no game, they're a little late to the party as far as I'm concerned.
But there's the only company right now that has actually got a order in hand to build an autonomous car for delivery is Volvo. The only other company who is actually building autonomous cars on their assembly line as we speak is General Motors.
Yep.
It's not by any means over. If anything, this is a big, wide, one of these creative, disruptive, oh my God, world-changing. It's going to change the way we get around for the rest of our lives.
Yep.
And the thing is, it ain't over. Even when we get this autonomous thing figured out in the next 20, 30 years, there'll still be another revolutionary way beyond that that makes this look like child's play.
I'm just waiting for transporters to come.
That
Right?
that might be the next wave long after we're gone.
And what about Beam Me Up, Scotty?
I got
That's what I was talking
yeah,
about.
right?
People, I got nothing on that. But Apple, as we reported here, Apple publicly reemerged from the self-driving field in April when the California Department of Motor Vehicles granted the company permit to test autonomous driving technology. And, oh, by the way, they rented the cars from Hertz and modified them.
Okay.
Just saying.
Did they stick to a specific model of car?
They didn't get into that.
I know that they said that it was Hertz, but I'm curious as to what model they chose.
It will probably be one of two, which seemed to be the preference, and that's it's a particular Lexus model, the RX 350,
Okay.
or the Volvo XC90, which was particularly designed working with Uber to do this.
Okay.
Coming up next, Samsung throws its hat in the self-driving vehicle ring in big ways. And for the final segment, electric trucks and lithium batteries, your Tesla update. This is RoadWorthy Drive.
This is RoadWorthy Drive.
Sorry. My thing has always been with Apple that it exists on an island, and it wants everyone to come to their island in order to partake of their technology. And in the autonomous world where everything's got to communicate with everything, the island technology or the isolation technology platform just doesn't work, which is why when they were first doing their autonomous car technology, they were trying and going off of the same platform of their iPhone. So that way they would have an iCar. Well, that just doesn't make sense. And as a...
Okay, I got to stop you, though, right
Go
now.
ahead.
Number one, right now, this moment, Google and Apple are in most cars built after 2011 now.
Yeah.
So they have an in. They have some space on that dashboard and in that technology and some familiarities that the automotive engineers have with this tech integrated into their systems.
Right.
So it's not as if they're flying blind. Number two, there are companies that have open systems. This is the wild, wild west. This is California 1848 gold rush.
Yes,
action.
it is.
And the stakes are that high.
Yeah.
They are. That's why everybody's rushing into this. Everybody sees that the victor, whatever it is going to reap millions, billions, if not trillions, according to General Motors. But here's the big thing. All bets are off depending on what legislation happens at the federal level. Number one, NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, has to issue some guidelines.
Right.
They've issued guidelines, but they need to get into rulemaking now and make it stick.
Right.
They've had to come to Congress to get additional authority to do some of the things they need to do, and they identified that in their report last year.
Well, do you think because of the lack of legislation that is going on right now, okay, when it comes to the development of autonomous software and autonomous vehicles, do you think that that has helped spewing this floodgate of technology hypothesis about how the vehicles will interact with the world around us?
Because NHTSA did issue guidelines in September 2016
right,
and cybersecurity guidelines in October of 2016. Along with the Society of Automotive Engineers, they codified the SAE standards
right
into their priorities. So, number one, everybody who's in this land rush, this California gold rush, is using that as their base spec.
Okay.
Because if you're not, you're out.
Right.
I mean, so that there is some basis. The problem is they're guidelines, not rules, or they don't carry the force of law. So the big thing with Apple in Arizona, one of the big reasons why they went to Arizona is Arizona said, we're pretty much hands-off administratively and legislatively with respect to self-driving vehicles.
So do you think that when in the autonomous future, and when we're talking about software, do you think that it's going to be a world that is very similar to our current operating systems? You either have a Mac, or you have Windows, or you have Linux.
No.
Do you think that it's going to be something like that, or do you think that we're going to have various types of...
There is consider it being in the middle of a tornado.
Right.
Consider all the technology, and all we're talking about at this point is one small piece that's going to affect this industry in the next 10 to 15 years.
Right.
You're talking about highly automated and fully automated level 5 vehicles. That's going to be affected by the race to power these vehicles, which right now is hydrogen, lithium-ion batteries, on a whole host, and about 3 or 4 other technologies that's swirling above that. On top of that is the Internet of Things and all these other things that are not directly tied to the auto industry.
But they're going to be essential.
But they're going, well, not so much essential. They're going to impact them. Some ways we know, most ways we don't. Perfect example, Ford Motor Company is working with Google to make sure Alexa can speak. You can speak to Alexa through your car and affect things in your home.
Yep.
Volkswagen's doing the same thing, and their vehicles will launch 2019, 2020. We don't know how the Internet of Things, and that's just today. That's not stuff that's on the drawing board looking at this stuff in a whole different way.
Right.
People are going to go, why didn't I think of that? Because that's so obvious. That's not obvious
and
now.
I personally believe the Internet of Things is going to be essential to autonomous living and in the future.
But at what point are we going to get ourselves into a position where privacy starts becoming an issue?
We're there now. People sign up for Facebook and they post everything all over social media, knowing well that the minute that you post it, you don't own rights to that anymore.
Or let's make this even easier, all the hacks.
Yeah.
Name a major retailer that hasn't been. Shoot, was it Equifax or one of them?
Yeah.
That got bit, and now Uber said they got bit, and what was worse, they paid off the hackers?
Yep. And see, here's the thing. Now it's going around, if a friend sends you a message on Facebook with a video, don't open it. But they're not after your computer anymore. You know what they're after?
Your bank account.
No, they're after your phone.
Actually,
because 9 times out of 10, people are opening up in Messenger. Your phone is going to have your banking information. Your phone is going to have your iPay or your Google Pay information. Your phone is going to have all those apps that you've already uploaded everything about you. Your phone is going to have your messages, like when you're typing back and forth. If you're somebody that maybe, you're kind of forgetful about your passwords, you might have all your passwords linked up in another app. They're not after your computer anymore. They're after your cell phone.
Actually, I'm going to be very ominous and a little bit of conspiracy theorist here.
No, we don't do conspiracy theorism here.
Here's the thing. There are after your computer. You know why? What is the one currency in the world right now exploding?
Information.
No.
Oh,
currency.
Bitcoin.
$9,900 a piece. How is Bitcoin created? Being able to amass lots of computing power to actually complete transactions and earn Bitcoin. They want your computer to become part of that blockchain to manufacture Bitcoin without you even knowing it, so they can get paid in the billions of dollars.
But that, again, is why they're going after your phone. Because most people in today's, right now, that's why you've got the chip and everything else. If you look at your cell phone, you've got the app for your, you've got like eBay, like in my phone, okay? I've got 3 different financial apps on my phone. If they went to my computer, I don't buy anything on my computer.
But you're missing it. They don't want the app. They want the actual machine that will help them. They need the aggregate computing power.
Yes.
Is what they need. They don't want and don't necessarily need. That's, I hate to say it, but stealing that stuff is old school. Making Bitcoin on the illegal and getting wicked paid is what's going on.
At some point, will somebody please, because I'm ignorant on this subject.
Right.
What in the HE double toothpick is Bitcoin?
Oh, my gosh.
Do you want to handle this one,
Okay.
Sasha?
Number one, we don't have time. But
No, we don't.
We
But,
don't.
you know what? We need to set up that kind of, because there is an explosion and there are
But
all
here's
kinds
the,
of
I will leave it.
schemes.
I will leave it like this. It's unregulated. It's digital. It's exploding in value.
It's imaginary.
But here's the scary part. It doesn't work without a distributed ledger called blockchain.
Yep.
Blockchain is actually being codified by major manufacturers and producers in legitimate ways, and it gets a little murky, but we'll talk about it sometime because it needs to be talked about. And we've been reading, Sasha and I have been reading about this stuff for a couple of years.
Yep.
And they actually even talked about a Bitcoin blockchain world down to the individual level. And it was wild. You remember that?
Yes, I do. And it scared the heck out of me when I got onto my PayPal, and it's now offering me Bitcoin to pay. And
Yes.
I freaked out. For those of you that, like, okay, like if you ever got into what it's like is, you remember Farmville? And how you have to buy those imaginary monetary to buy all the stuff inside the game?
right.
Now imagine that, except in real world. That's exactly what it's like.
At
Yeah,
what
I think
point,
that's a good explanation.
At what point do we go back to having other currency? And to me, Bitcoin would be a currency.
But
It
here's
is
the
a currency.
thing.
But
and this,
but why is it even being allowed? Period. And it's not. That's got to be breaking some
There's-
kind of federal law. Here.
well, it's the
Not regulated.
IRS. Yeah, the IRS is just now tapping it. They're looking into it because it's a completely unregulated currency.
And it's worldwide.
Yes.
It's not
Yes.
like $1 in your pocket is issued by the U.S. Treasury.
Right.
That
And
used
it's
to be backed by
the full
gold.
faith and credit of the United States of America.
Yep.
Bitcoin has no such backing. It is speculative. Bitcoin has been stolen. Bitcoin banks have actually been robbed and drained, and several companies have crashed and burned and went bankrupt.
Yep.
It's wild out there. There's a lot of chance to make money, but there's a lot of chance to be burned because there is no Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation to backstop your losses.
And
there
a
you go.
lot of the people that want to see Bitcoin actually become a thing are trying to tell you.
Unsavory,
I know that's right.
and we'll say it that way.
Okay, let's go.
All right.
Okay, hold on. I got to reset my thing.
Yeah, sorry, folks.
9
That's
minutes?
yeah.
9 minutes.
That's
That's called a side conversation. This is what you get on RoadWorthy Drive. Occasionally, we go off the road and into the weeds, and occasionally need a tow truck to get us back on the road.
Wait a minute.
Being the
And
adult
that's why
in the
we have
room,
the adult in the
That is
room.
Jack.
speaking of which, we need.
Okay, wait a minute. Number one, it's bad enough I'm being called the adult, but now a tow truck? Really?
We were
Oh
way off
my
in the
gosh!
weeds.
No! Mater.
Mater. Yeah. Mhm. We have a new nickname for the adult in the room. When we get off the road and into the weeds,
and if
we
you-
will call Mater to tow us back.
And if you ever do that, I not only will I shut you up, but I'll walk out of the room and not come back.
Oh my
gosh.
Oh my.
So there will be nobody in this room calling me Mater.
Oh my. Okay.
All right,
9
here we go.
minutes. Feel the love, people. This is the next to last segment for this hour of Roadworthy Drive. I'm so glad you could drop by. I'm Ken Chester. For those of you who want or need more than your fair share of the road, check out the show website. That's roadworthydrive.com. Listen to audio clips of shows you may have missed. Watch video of our behind-the-scenes antics in studio. And it was quite a bit of antics in studio at the break this past time. Actually had to have the adult in the room kind of bring us back to subject. If you didn't see that online, you really missed a good time. As we produce the show, and more. The website is a great place to find out where we are and what we are doing in the world of social media. Sasha is our social media diva who works hard during the week between shows to bring you the latest in automotive technology and entertaining items of interest. See how she keeps the social in our social media. Oh, and in case you may not know it, you can watch our behind-the-scenes antics live via the YouTube Live channel. That's our channel. During our recording times are also found on the show website. Now, I want to talk about Samsung. You know them as that South Korean manufacturer of awesome cell phones and accessories. The Galaxy Note 7 notwithstanding. People make mistakes.
I know that's
Don't
right.
be hating.
I still have the Note 5, and I love it.
See? Hey,
I'm switching over to Asus. I'm sorry.
hater. Anyway, hater in the house. That rhymes with something else, too.
Don't even go there. Move on.
Private joke, folks. You have to check out the live to see what we were talking about. Anyway, they're making some serious inroads, both regarding batteries and self-driving cars. Yeah, I did say Samsung and self-driving cars. Bear with me. I will explain. Now, we haven't seen this kind of gold rush mentality since the early dot-com days of the 1990s. Seems like everybody's jumping in, and Samsung is no exception. Let's start first with their self-driving bet. They actually bought a company that specialized in automotive technology, Harman Industries. They paid $8 billion for the company. And they're setting up a business unit to house autonomous driving products, and then Samsung upped the ante by setting up $300 million into a new fund investing in startups in the autonomous driving space. That's $8.3 billion, folks, with a B. They ain't playing. Now, this new autonomous driving unit that Samsung's got will compete on everything from driving algorithms. That's how the car thinks and making decisions in certain road situations as it goes down the road, to system integration. That will also include an advanced driver assistance platform, keywords with open software.
And that's what I'm talking about.
That allows outside engineers to build products off it.
Yep.
Apparently, Apple's not the only one with a closed system. It appears that Mobileye
Has
which
also
was
got
a closed system, but Intel bought them. They were an Israeli firm, and that was $15 billion.
Yeah, and it'll be very interesting to see whether Intel's going to open that up. I personally am all for, especially right now, am all for an open source type of platform that will allow different ideas and allow the technology to go in different ways. And maybe allow someone that's just in their basement or something like that, you know what I'm saying, though? I mean,
That's
it's
scary,
possible.
okay? I don't want my car powered by somebody tinkering in the basement. That's just me. I'm going to tell you is that Harman's chief executive officer said, our industry is literally screaming, saying, we love Mobileye, but we need an open platform. But again, Samsung's not the only one with an open platform. We talked about Beidou as being another one with an open platform that has opened it up, a Chinese company. It's open season. Now, why does an open platform mean anything? Let me explain it to you. With an open platform, it means that the collective, everybody who has access to that platform can add value to it. In other words, the sum of the many become greater. Perfect example would be Linux as a platform, which was an open source platform. People would get it, find a bug, improve it, release it, enhance it. But the thing is, people benefited from having access to make it a better platform.
Okay, let me see if I understand this correctly. Would like the Android system being open source?
In a way,
kind of.
It
Yeah.
was earlier. I'm not so sure now, but when it first started out, when Google first opened it, yes, it was.
Okay.
But again, the more people that can interact with it, and obviously in any open platform system, you have to have some level of security and validation.
Yep.
People are not just throwing changes in there that could gum up the works. I
Correct.
mean, when you hear the words open platform, yeah, it's open, but no, you just can't throw anything in it.
Yeah, like I can't just be sitting at home and just throw it in there so that way all orange cars make a constant left-hand turn.
Okay. Interesting. Orange cars.
So we're now allowing orange cars in NASCAR?
I'm not getting there. I'm not. Now, that startup funding we're talking about,
Yep.
the guy that's running it is from Delphi Automotive's automotive vehicle project in Silicon Valley. They're not playing. They're getting the heavy hitters in the industry involved. They've already invested in an Australian firm. They actually put in $90 million. I'm sorry, I said Australia. I mean Austria. Based developer of platforms and safety software for connected cars. Actually, their software is already being used in the Audi A8. They're not playing. So the thing is that it's not just the automakers anymore. So let me jump to this, because I'm going to jump a little bit. I want to talk about this. Samsung has developed a graphene-based battery.
About time.
Same people. Takes 12 minutes to get fully charged. Now, your first blush with their battery debacle of the Galaxy Note 7, you're like, yeah, okay. But remember, we just talked about Samsung, $8 billion developing autonomous cars.
Yep.
Imagine if they can take this graphene battery and scale it up to go into a car. Graphene has been touted as the electronics industry's miracle material, given its strength, electrical conductivity, and elasticity. They've developed a new graphene-based battery that will give around a 45% higher capacity than batteries on the market right now. Did I mention 45% more?
Yep.
Now, 12 minutes completely charged. Now.
How much graphene would it take to charge an electric car?
Don't know, but I'll tell you what, way less than you think.
Who was the one that basically was trying to come up with graphene all the way around the car? We talked about that a couple months ago.
Well, we've been talking a lot about graphene.
Yeah, it was a paint.
Oh, we're
It
talking
was a
about the
paint.
paint.
You're right.
Yeah.
It was a paint.
It was the paint.
And we're
then-
talking about a house.
Yep.
But again, as the kid says, you're going to watch this space because they're going to figure out how to put those two together. And that could be just groundbreaking. Graphene battery in an EV that could charge quickly, yeah, even Tesla would have to sit up and take notice. Now, for the final segment, if it's all about electric trucks and lithium batteries, then this must be the Tesla Roundup. And that's next. This is RoadWorthy Drive.
This is RoadWorthy Drive with Ken Chester.
I am all for graphene. I think that is the most exciting thing ever aside from the wonders that will be mobility in the next 10 years, graphene I think is going to be essential and pivotal to the next coming age. I think that it's one of those techs, it accidentally occurred, but
I'll tell you what, very simply.
Get to your mic, please.
Huh?
Get to your mic.
When they figure out how to take graphene and apply it as a road paint and apply electric to it so it could be chargeable, where you can recharge as you go along, then any vehicle would suddenly have an unlimited.
But again, who's gonna pay for that electric generation?
Yeah, but here's the beautiful part about it. Toll road.
Yeah.
Which would help the states. Now, here's a novel solution. We talked about, during the break, about cost in our last show. We had a break where we talked about cost and who's going to pay for this or that. Imagine if a toll authority was smart enough to say, I know how to help truckers offset the cost of their newfangled vehicles and still generate tolls for our road. We're going to spend whatever it is. You paint the graphene. You put power to it. Okay? They've got like conductive coils at the bottom of the truck. Maybe they figured out if it's 12 minutes at 60 miles an hour, that's 12 miles.
Mm-hmm.
So you say, okay, if we know from empty, which most trucks wouldn't be,
Right.
you might be half charge, quarter charge. And you figure for a truck, you figure it would take, okay, we'll be conservative, an hour
Okay.
to recharge.
Right.
An over-the-road 18-wheeler. Okay? So you're painting at speed, which we'll say 65 miles an hour, you're painting 65 miles worth of road with graphene. Bet you can do it for a few $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
Electrical feeds, no big deal. So you've done the whole thing for $10 million. You'll make that money back in a year.
Yeah, you would.
Because what you've done for the truckers is you've kept their costs down, because as long as them trucks are rolling,
Yep.
they're making money.
Yep.
And if you made it economically feasible to go on your toll road instead of driving around, then I can recharge my truck, make time, maybe even a dedicated lane where I can even go a little faster. Oh, no. This is what we're talking about. All the novel ways that solutions will come that will offset. Because here's the thing. Money makes people do things. And if you can find a way to reduce costs or increase viability, not all these toll road people are clueless. They'll figure out, in order to get the steady traffic, and I'd want the truckers. Why? Because the truckers got to come across all the time.
Yep.
You might be on vacation, business. You're not going to use my road all the time. But those trucks, yes, they are. And if they're electrical trucks, particularly of a particular company, and once you find out by going on your toll road, they have an economical and strategic advantage of getting the loads delivered without having to stop to recharge, you're going to have business, my friend. That money's going to make itself back in no time.
Well, and it'll be interesting to see if they did it like going into a major city, right? If they did it like the last
In and out.
65, yeah, if they did it the last 65 hours
Miles.
or 65
miles.
miles, sorry, going into the city, right? So then what's to say that while it stopped, it's fully loaded, what's to say that it doesn't feed back into
Well,
the,
in the case of the trucks, probably not so much.
you don't
but
think that they're going to be
no.
used as like
and
a,
here's the other thing. Like it's happening around here, what's happening, and this is part of mobility changing, any major city now is seeing a boom of warehouse construction on the outskirts. By my office, they built 4 new major large warehouses.
Yep.
2 are not even done yet. Major. Why? Because it's easy to come off the interstate where we're at, particularly with the flyover they're about to build.
Yep.
Put you right there. And then you do your last mile, which could be an electric truck or a step van or something, into the city. Because the last thing you want is that big 18-wheeler all the way into the city. You go point to point, you break that load down, and you become more efficient with a smaller vehicle pinpointing a specific load. And that's what's happening. But even if they're parked against, unloading their truck, and that whole thing is graphene painted, as they're unloading the trailer,
It's charging.
she's charging.
There you go. Okay.
So I see that coming.
Last
Okay,
thing.
hold on. Hold on. Let me adjust here.
Sasha, look at the clock.
I know.
Yep.
And that was us kind of starting on time too.
Yeah. Okay. People, let's do it.
All right, here we go. 8 minutes, 50 seconds.
Thank you, sir.
Then I expect your seat and tray tables up in their full and upright position.
Graphene gets us excited. That's all I can say. You're going to want to go to our YouTube live channel and find out what we're talking about. You missed between the break a very intense conversation about the properties of graphene and why graphene actually is going to be a major benefit in the years to come, both in the charging and recharging of vehicles, everything from trucks to cars to whatever. it's worth getting in there. I think you'll find it interesting. Now, if you're tuning in, this is the fourth and final segment of this hour of Roadworthy Drive. I'm Ken Chester, your host. Now, regular listeners of this program know I've been keeping you up to date on all things Tesla. From its challenges in building the new Model 3 sedan to a discussion of its new electric tractor-trailer rig, I've kept you full to the brim on what's going on. And this segment is no exception. The only difference this week is that I'm actually going to have some good news from Elon Musk to share, and I know Sasha will like that.
I like good news.
Yes, you'll like good news. So let's get into it. We'll start with this from Australia. Elon Musk beat his deadline and turned on the world's biggest lithium-ion battery in South Australia. It will supply power to 30,000 homes. Here's the kicker. It is completely renewable energy.
Wow.
It is storing energy generated from a wind farm and a solar farm. The biggest problem in South Australia is that the farms existed, but they couldn't control when they could feed the power into the grid. So dependable electric power was spotty at best. Now, with this 100 megawatt setup that Elon Musk built and beat his deadline, they can control and even out the availability of electricity in a place where they couldn't get fossil fuels. They couldn't build the plants. They were too far away. So that's some good news. Let me see here. Now, but here's the thing. You also need to know this. With battery prices tumbling by almost half since 2014, that's less than 4 years ago, these kind of projects are popping up around the world. In fact, their developers have announced lithium-ion battery projects with a total capacity of 1,650 megawatts per hour in 2017, 4 times the amount of last year.
Wow.
We used to talk about megawatts in power plants.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about battery storage.
Yep.
And the beautiful part is, this is the missing link between renewable energy and the grid. The biggest problem they were having was renewable energy is fine, but if the wind ain't blowing and the sun ain't shining, what's the point? The beautiful part is, falling prices of lithium-ion batteries made power storage a possibility as a part of having a peaker plant or plant that was spinning to come online when it dropped below the base load. You don't need it now. You need the batteries. And that's one of the things that he's got going on. Here's the thing they was talking about. South Australia gets 41% of its electricity from renewable energy, one of the highest penetrations of wind and solar in the world. And that's not the only project Elon Musk got going on. So you've got that. Now, this is worthy of note. I want to read all of this really quick. They're connected to a wind farm in Hornsdale owned by French renewable energy company Neon. It's the first time the state has been able to reliably dispatch wind energy to the grid 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that's what we talked about. But that's not all our boy's been doing. He's doing work in Puerto Rico, but not with wind farms, with solar and battery projects.
Right.
In Puerto Rico. Hospital being one of the first many solar and storage projects. See, people thought that Elon Musk was out of his mind buying a solar company and a battery company. Oh, he spread too thin, they said. Folks, check this out. Putting these together, he's figured out how to remove the variability of renewable energy by having it a low-cost storage mechanism that could release to the grid in an even, dependable way, like a power plant, without needing the power plant.
Well, and the other thing, too, is, as we all know, when the hurricane went through Puerto Rico this year,
Exactly.
and they've had a heck of a time getting their power infrastructure back up.
Yep.
Still having that problem.
And one of the things that he was able to do, like you said, was he went to the hospital, which is essential,
Right.
and has come up with a solution where they can power the hospital. The hospital can do what it needs to do to help everybody else
Yep.
without having to worry about the guys running the power lines and trying to make everything work again.
Well, and wasn't there a story where he made a bet that he'd be able to
That was-
fully
That was
supply-
Australia.
That was Australia.
No. But wasn't there something where he made a snide comment about how he'd be able to fully restore power to Puerto Rico before their actual infrastructure was repaired?
That wouldn't surprise me. I don't remember reading that. I remember the bet he made in
On
South
Australia,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Let me throw this at you. Okay, here's the reason why it matters on an automotive show. If Elon Musk can do this large scale and work it out and get the prices down, don't you think that some of this technology will work its way into his automotive products?
Yes.
Yep.
Like, I don't know, an 18-wheel truck.
Right?
Imagine solar panels
All around the
on the top of
the trailer. Yep. And that's why you have trailers specifically for the Tesla Semi.
And then maybe you have batteries that take that power and use a smaller displacement diesel engine or gasoline engine or a hydrogen-powered engine or lithium-ion battery-powered engine to use the engine. So you've got them two working in tandem at a price that is falling. And on that note, DHL has pre-ordered 10 Tesla semis at $5,000 a piece down payment.
Yep.
Now, there's some confusion in the industry, and I want to clarify this. Some people are saying that Tesla did announce prices and they're highly discounted. Others are saying they haven't finalized final prices yet. And people were getting a little crazy because, oh, Tesla, they haven't sold that many trucks. Well, people, this is a prototype. This is a concept. This is not a truck in the final form that they're going to build.
Okay, because that was going to be the next question that I was going to ask you. Because, again, aren't we still trying to figure out what the heck he's going to do and where he's going to put the batteries?
Well, not so much the batteries. We talked a couple shows ago about a trucker who looked at this and had some valid concerns, and we read those concerns on the air.
You're right.
Because it made sense. So they've got some work to do to get this truck, I don't want to say marketable, but practical.
Yeah,
it's
practical.
It's still going to be a couple years down the road.
No, it won't be that long.
You think within the next year it'll have it?
He's talking about building these in 2019, which means you're going to need a working prototype of your final what you're going to build in the next 6 to 8 months, because it takes a while to lock down tooling.
Well, and not only that too, but doesn't the government have to approve it?
Not necessarily. It's an 18-wheeler.
What does it say about the companies that they're willing to fork over the money just for a truck that they haven't even finalized what it's going to be like?
Truckers are under tremendous pressure to reduce costs. Pennies a mile add up to big money.
Yeah.
So anything they think might be, they're like the railroads. What they do, they'll get it, test it, evaluate it, then decide to see if it's going to work. Like a very fast performance car with more power, it seems like I've run out of time. On behalf of the Roadworthy Drive crew, thanks for listening. This has been Roadworthy Drive with Ken Chester.
Roadworthy Drive with Ken Chester is a copyrighted presentation of the Roadworthy Drive Radio Network. Any rebroadcast, retransmission, or any other use is prohibited without the written consent of the Motor News Media Corporation.
It always seems I've got more to talk about than I have time to talk about it.
Well, that usually happens.
Yeah, it kind of does, because we didn't even get into all the stuff. There's a comparative company called the Nikola Motor Company. Mm-hmm. They build a fuel cell 18-wheel truck based on hydrogen. They're sitting with 7,000 orders. The difference is that they're a little bit more conventional in their delivery and what they've got planned, and they're a little further along on facts and figures.
Well, but again, where is the supply of hydrogen?
Again, easier for a truck company because you're going from terminal to terminal. So building that infrastructure themselves is not a big deal.
Okay.
As opposed to a consumer driving from point A to point B, which could be anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
That's more of an issue. So, well, folks, as usual, that kind of takes all the time we have. On behalf of Jack, Sasha, myself, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.